Hey everybody! So today I want to talk about how you can run your first sales call efficiently. And this is something we in the industry call a discovery call. So a discovery call is the first call that you have with the client. And the goal of the discovery call is to discover an issue that you may work on together and then prove that you are able to solve that issue for the client. So the first thing to make sure that your sales meeting is a success is to prepare as much as you can, especially if you have no previous experience. In the preparation phase, you're going through your client's LinkedIn profile, you're going through their website, you're going through their social media profiles, both personal and their business profiles as well. And you're just finding every bit of information that you can to figure out things that might be relevant to your service and what might help you sell them your service or product. The second thing I'd recommend is to prepare a short presentation with the meeting agenda, so things that you'll go through in the meeting, with information about yourself and your services, and then some information about the next steps you're hoping to happen after the meeting. If you have experience selling professional services, you should be able to run your first meeting without a presentation. But if a presentation helps you, by all means, do it. I like to personally run my sales calls, especially my discovery calls, without any presentations. I find that having the conversation with the client without any sort of pitching vibe in it, I find that just connecting with a human and having a discussion about their goals and how I may be able to help them, I find that works best for me. But if a presentation works for you, and if you don't have any previous sales experience, I'd 100% recommend creating a presentation. The second thing is to set a goal and an agenda for the meeting. So with a goal, I mean what happens after the meeting. So a goal could be a second meeting. So a second meeting where you'll propose something concrete to the client and show your pricing and things like that. So you start the actual negotiation phase essentially. A goal could be to make the sale on the first call. That's a valid goal. The goal could be to get a referral to another person within the organization who might be a bit better decision maker for you. Whatever the goal, it should be clear in your mind all the time. Then, after you've done these three things, you'll be essentially ready for the actual sales call. And the way that I like to run my sales calls is in this way. So first, I like to confirm the agenda and confirm the schedule with the client. So I'll start my meetings with saying, "Hey X, thanks for making it to the meeting. How are you?" Do some bit of chit chat there, some small talk just to get the sort of person warming up. And then you want to quite quick go to the actual agenda. And you start that by saying something like, "Hey, I thought of going through these 4 items with you today. So I want to first introduce myself and my services so that you know who I am and what I can offer. Then I want to talk about your business and your goals and figure out what they are. Then I want to find out if there's any alignment between my services and your goals. And then if there is, I want to set a concrete next step. So here you'll say the goal. So I want to book a meeting with you, or I want to audit your marketing channels, or whatever." So that's confirming the agenda. The second thing you want to do in the first minutes of the sales call is to confirm the schedule. So if you have 45 minutes booked with a client, you might actually end up in a situation where you'll have 30 minutes scheduled with the client. So there might be a communication issue. You might end up in a situation where you'll need a lot more time. So the client is very talkative, for example, and you don't have the 45 minutes completely to yourself. So you don't have as much freedom with the scheduling when the client is talking very much. To avoid any awkward situations, I like to ask the client if they have a second meeting right after this, or if we can go a couple of minutes over if we get along well, things like that. So you'll know that if the client has to leave in 30 minutes instead of 45, you can react to that. Then you should introduce yourself and your business. And this is the spot essentially where you'll pitch yourself. So you want to talk a bit about your experience, you want to talk a bit about who you are, you want to talk a bit about the kinds of clients that you like to service, but you don't want to make this too long. So just a minute or two maximum is enough here, talking about yourself and the services you offer. You really want to just give the client a scope and a sort of scratch the surface type understanding of what you do and what you're good at, because you want to get in the first call the client to talk as much as possible about the relevant items related to their goals and to their problems. After introducing yourself, you want to ask the client to introduce themselves, and then you want to dig right into your goals. So the first question I typically like to ask my clients on the sales call about their business is, after a sort of general introduction, I like to ask them about their goals relevant to the area that we're discussing. So for example, I sell a lot of marketing services, so I might ask, what are your goals for your 2022 marketing strategy, for example? Or if we have a more specific meeting, I might ask about their goals for CRM implementation. So what problems are you trying to solve with this acquisition, or what are your goals with this project? Things like that. You want to get a good sense of the client's goals, and then you want to ask additional questions or follow-up questions as much as possible. So for example, if the client says that our goal for 2022 marketing is to get our website views to triple, you want to first ask, why is this a goal? So you want to figure out the motivation behind it. Then you can also question the goal. So for example, if your goal is to triple your website visits, how many leads or how many conversions are you looking to get per those triple views? So are you looking to increase your conversion rates as well? So you want to just get a detailed view of the client's problems, of their goals, and that will help you a lot later in the sales process. When you have the goal or problem clear, you want to then ask what happens if you achieve that goal. So which kinds of ripple effects are you expecting in your organization if you're successful in this? Then they might talk about, we're expecting to increase our revenue by X%. We are looking to have this, that, and the other positive effect. So you want to sort of hype up the client about their own strategy, because that'll help you be more likable, and that'll also help you get information about what they're really trying to achieve. Because typically, goals that clients first present to you are not the actual goals. They're related to other items that are sort of further up in the strategy. The second thing to ask is, what happens if you don't solve this problem? So if you fail, what are the consequences of that? Do you get fired, or does the organization performance decrease, or does your bonus get smaller, or whatever might be sort of things that motivate the client to go toward their goals? You want to figure that out to use their motivation later on in the sales process. Then after you have a good understanding of the goal and of the problem and of the consequences, both negative and positive, if achieved or not achieved, when you have a clear understanding of those, you then want to ask the client if they have everything in place to achieve that goal. So if, for example, their goal is to produce the best marketing campaign in the company ever, do they have a videographer? Do they have all of the marketers? Do they have all of the relevant people? Do they have the correct ad strategy? Do they have everything in place for them to achieve that goal? If they do, that's a good sign that you won't find any problem or any goal that you can help with, and that's a good sign to end the sales call. But chances are the client has not thought of everything, and you have some leverage there to sell your services. If the client doesn't have everything in place related to their goal, you might want to also ask about why that is. So that way you'll know that if, for example, they don't have the budget for it, that's not a good way to spend your time talking with a client who doesn't have a budget. If they are right now looking for providers, that's a great time to be talking with this client, and you've gotten lucky in your timing, in that you'll right at the right time when they are looking for offers, and that's a signal to move the discussion forward. So you want to figure out what's the sort of what kind of issues they've been having with reaching that goal, and then you might want to give solutions to those problems if possible. You can also end the sales call here, so if there's no potential for you to sell anything, it doesn't make sense at all for you to spend more time with the client, but these cases typically are unlikely. Then, if you haven't got enough material for making your case for why this client should buy your services, you might want to ask what's stopping them from reaching their goals. So if they have anything resource-wise set, do they have any concerns about them reaching their goals? Typically, if they do, there's something you can do about it on a strategic level, for example, if we stay on the marketing example, or otherwise. But if there's not anything you can do, then it doesn't make sense for you to spend your time with this client. Rather, it makes sense for you to move forward. Then, as you're asking these questions from the client, you really want to all the time take notes, because these are the answers that will help you sell in the first meeting, in the second meeting, in the third meeting, and in every other meeting you're gonna have with this client, because these are the points that really help you make your case. If you know the problem of the client, if you know the goals of the client, it's much easier for you to argument that you need this service, because in this way and by this logic, it makes this area or problem of your strategy much easier to deal with, and I can take that whole thing off your table. That's the sort of argument you want to make, and this is setting you up for that. So the discovery call is really crucial for your success in the sales process, so that you'll find out the problems of the client and you know how to effectively provide solutions to those problems. Then, after you have all of these things in place and you know the problem and you've taken notes and you remember everything, then you want to just sort of pitch your service. And this is the difficult part in the sales meeting, in the first meeting especially, because you have to sort of take the input of the client as it comes, and then you have to modify your pitch on the go to fit that client especially. So you want to use similar words that they've used so that they understand that this problem that I'm having is connected with the service that this guy is providing. For example, making these connections for the client is really good for the sales process. And pitching your service using the problems and goals of the client, that's really the only way to go right now. If you can't do that, if you're just gonna do a generic sales pitch, that's not gonna get you far, so you might as well not pitch at all, because the expectation is that the client is an experienced buyer and they know how to buy services, so you have to have a clear value proposition that you formulate on the go for the client. Then you want to make your ask for this meeting. So since you presented your goal in the start for this meeting, you now want to move towards that. So you know the client's problem, you know if it's worth your time to pursue this client. You then want to remind the client about the goal for the meeting and say something like, so your goal is to triple your website visits for this year, and I've told you that I can help you with that problem in these 3 ways, and you bought the idea, so to speak. So would you be interested in booking a second meeting 2 weeks from now? And by that time, I'll make a website audit that's completely free for you, and I'll present the problems that I found on your website that affect traffic, and I'll show you how you can increase your traffic and then propose some services that help you do it so that we can get this whole problem off your table. So would a meeting 2 weeks from now on a Wednesday at 3 p.m. work for you? It'll take just 45 minutes of your time. Something like that. So you want to book a second meeting. Ideally, if you're selling professional services, that's typically the way to go. And in the meantime, when you're waiting for the second meeting, you really want to provide as much value as you can. So if it's a website audit or a Google ad audit, all of these kinds of audits are really good value that you can provide. You can also do a complete proposal for the client. So proposal for the next 4 months, how would that look working with you? Things like that provide the client value during the sales process. Of course, you want to make sure that you don't invest too much time in that. So 1 to 2 hours is a good amount of time to spend on this kind of value creation, but you do want to make sure that you do it, because that's going to make you distinguish yourself from the competition if the client is looking at some other providers as well. So these were some of my tips for running a good first meeting and for running a discovery call. I hope you found my tips valuable, and I hope to see you soon here on the channel. Bye bye.